Alright, here we have a really horrific song. And it's the lyrics, the ideas that I think are awful, not the tune. I don't care about the tune. The tune's okay.
We go together, better than birds of a feather, you and me.
So it's implied that he's talking about himself and a girl. He doesn't have to say that. It's such a cultural standard thing. He says they go together, but he doesn't give any reason that they go together. He says how much they go together. He's exaggerating, using a metaphor. He wants to be really vague. He doesn't want to say anything specific about why they go together, what makes them compatible. It's just attraction. Oh, and the song is Sucker by Jonas Brothers. It's quite famous. It has 162 million YouTube views. It gets played on the radio and stuff. It's popular. So this is mainstream culture.
We change the weather, yeah. I'm feeling heat in December when you found me.
Okay, so changing the weather and heat, that's more a vague metaphor, but it means like their relationship is hot and sexy. It's like so hot and sexy that it changes the weather. Even in the winter time, they're hot and sexy. What makes them hot and sexy is when she's around him. So there's no specifics about who she is, what kind of person she is, what they do together. They just have a conventional romantic relationship that's so standard that you don't have to say a word about her. Like, she hasn't been mentioned exactly. Like, she's called you, and that's it. All we know about her so far is that she's you. He hasn't even said the gender, which we assume. There's also the video, which shows gender. So again, they're exaggerating how good the relationship is, how much they like it, while not talking at all about what's actually good about it. They're just saying it is good.
I've been dancing on top of cars and stumbling out of bars. I follow you through the dark, can't get enough.
The video is weird. Like, it's exaggerated, it's not very realistic. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe they dislike realism because the whole song is not very real. Maybe they want to stand out and be different. Like, they don't want to look like your friends from high school. They want to look special. It's like you don't have the budget to go to a Victorian mansion and have weird costumes, so they're fancier than you. I think it's partly a way of showing off. Maybe it looks less weird to a different demographic. I might be out of it in terms of certain trends. So the video strikes me as weird, but maybe to some people it's less weird. But it's also like, it's old-fashioned in certain ways. But sometimes old stuff gets trendy again for some reason. Like her she's wearing like giant sparkler things on her head or something. Like, I find that strange. And they have like a pink ladder. I think it's supposed to be a little bit bizarre. Okay, so the lyrics we just heard. Dancing on top of cars and stumbling out of bars. So, they like to party. They don't like to think. They stumble because they're too drunk. They dance on top of cars because they lost their inhibitions because they're drunk. They dance on top of cars because they don't have like a proper life. They're not acting properly. They're acting out. It's not like a good place to dance. They don't have like a proper dance floor. So it's part of their degenerate lifestyle. It's trying to give the impression of being like a rule breaker who's not a conformist. Just like getting really drunk is so fucking edgy. That's sarcasm. It's not very edgy. It's common. And dancing on top of cars is actually like a lot less common than stumbling out of bars. Because anyone can fucking stumble out of a bar, but to dance on top of a car with like people around, you have to like make yourself the center of attention, and the majority of people don't do that. only the minority are willing to like try to be in the spotlight and be seen by a lot of people because there's the possibility of failing. So it's partly an exaggeration where people like pretend that they're more outgoing than they are. Like people are like identifying with the song even though they actually would not dance on top of a bar or a car or something else that puts them in the spotlight too much. Most people only dance on like a level dance floor where everyone's on the same level and you blend into the crowd. Maybe for like a special occasion they'll dance in a bigger spot, like at their wedding. Maybe they'll take the first dance on the dance floor by themselves. And if they do, they'll probably like practice a bunch. They're probably not that comfortable with it.
Stumbling out of bars, I follow you through the dark, can't get enough. You're the medicine and the pain, the tattoo inside my brain, and baby, you know it's obvious.
Okay, so the paragraphing is not very good. This is like a minor point, but you know it's obvious is like directly leading into the next thing, so it shouldn't really be like its own separate part. Like this looks like the end of a paragraph, but then it's actually just connected to the next thing. But anyways, okay, so follow you through the dark. This is starting to get into the theme. They're very vague about what they're actually talking about. We'll find out the theme pretty soon. The theme is that he's a sucker. So he's following her around because he's a sucker. He's a sycophant. He's putting her on a pedestal and sort of worshipping her. And so he's willing to follow her even through the dark. That means he doesn't see where he's going. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't use his own judgment and mind, and he'll follow her anyways. You know, he doesn't understand. He can't see the light. There's no light shed on what's going on, and he'll follow her anyways. Like, light is strongly connected with thinking, with being able to understand things. Like we say I see when we mean I understand. We associate being able to see things with being able to know about them and understand them, whereas in the dark we don't understand, we're lost. We lose our best tool for dealing with reality. And he's willing to give up his eyesight to follow her around, which is a symbolic abdication of his brain, his mind. He's willing to forsake what makes him a human being to follow her. He's forsaking his reason to act like an animal following her through the dark. Even a lot of animals don't like the dark. They use vision to help evade predators or hunt prey or something. And of course, human beings, we invented light bulbs, and before that candles and torches and bonfires and so on, which is very important. Like fire, by the way, it's not, people think of fire as providing cooking and heat, which are very important, but it also provides light in the dark. It lets you have light when it's nighttime out, and that's a major control over the environment. So he's forsaking all that kind of stuff. He's like an anti-Prometheus. So that's evil. It's kind of subtle, like he's not saying all that, but he's hinting at it, and the entire song is hint after hint after hint of things of that nature. Like a sucker is also a person who's not thinking for themselves. They're not using rational judgment. They're getting fooled and duped. They're allowing themselves to be led around and guided by other people who might be taking advantage of them. They're not doing adequate critical thinking. Anyway, he follows her through the dark. He can't get enough. So that's why he's following through the dark. He wants more romantic relationship. He's obsessed with romantic relationship. And it's exaggerating how much people like romantic relationships. Like, they do like them a lot, but they also like exaggerating it more. Like, they really want to pledge their allegiance and say how fucking great they think it is. They want to like outdo other people in their conformity to the romantic ideal by being like the most into it, the most excited about it. So that's like the purpose of this song, is he's so fucking into romance that he's a sucker. because he cares more about romance than about critical thinking. So that's why he's a sucker, because he prioritizes the one over the other. Okay, and you're the medicine and the pain. So she's both the cure and the cause of suffering. So he's presenting her as mixed. Like, he's not just like, this is purely a good thing. Which, I think people now think that it's like naive and simplistic to think relationships are pure good. So they like know there are bad things about relationships, but they excuse it. They say she's, the world is full of shades of gray and it's complicated and pain happens, but you deal with it as part of life and part of being an adult. They think like that. So like the fact that she brings pain is, he knows it's painful and he's going to deal with it anyways because he's that committed to romance. And on top of that, he also calls her medicine, even though she's a cause of pain. What sort of medicine she is, what she helps with, is less clear, but it seems to help with his desire for romance and to not be, like, quote, alone. The tattoo inside my brain. So, first of all, tattoos are trashy. Second of all, that sounds like brain damage. Like, it's disrespecting the mind again. I think tattoos are supposed to be, like, permanent. And he's sort of saying, like, you're stuck in my head, I think is what it means. It's sort of like can't get a song lyric out of your head. You could say it's like tattooed in your head. Like it's permanently written inside your brain. So I think that's what he means, is that she's really stuck in his brain. He's strongly and metaphorically exaggerating how large a role in his mind she plays. Okay, and then baby, it's obvious. So we get a little bit more information about her. Not only is she a you, she's also a baby. Oh, and she's also medicine. And she's a tattoo in his brain. But that's not really information about her. That was more about being stuck in his head. That's more about his head. But she's medicine of some sort. She's a baby, and she's a you. That's the information about her. And we're supposed to like her and think that, ooh, what a nice relationship. She sounds nice. She sounds pretty, etc. Anyway, so baby, it's obvious. So she already knows. They don't have to communicate. Everything's obvious. She already knows it, and it's obvious. Like, he's double saying that this, like, everything goes without saying. You just have a relationship and you feel things. And you don't really need to talk. It's interesting because mainstream culture says, like, communication is the key to relationships. But then they also have songs like this, which are totally anti-communication. Anyway, so what's obvious?
I'm a sucker for you. Say the word and I'll go anywhere blindly. I'm a sucker for you. Yeah. Any road you take, you know that you'll find me. I'm a sucker for all discipline.
Okay, so he's a sucker for her. He's sort of brainless. A gullible or easily deceived person. A person especially susceptible to or fond of a specified thing. A person easily cheated or deceived. A mark for a gambler or confidence man. A person irresistibly attracted by a specific type of object. So yeah, he means the attracted thing. But see, these definitions are not random or unrelated. It's you become an easy target for a confidence man. You become a mark when you're so attracted that you're just focused on that one thing and you're not thinking critically and you're not looking at other angles. That makes you easily cheated or deceived. Huh, so the term sucker, as we use it, was not in the 1913 Webster's. They did have some slang. It meant a hard drinker, a soaker, a greenhorn when easily gulled. So that's a U.S. slang, and that's similar to the current meaning, but it's not quite the same. So it first started as a slang and later became more of a clear word. A person attracted to something as indicated. He's a sucker for new clothes. To make a sucker of, fool, hoodwink. One who is easily deceived, a dupe. One that is indiscriminately attracted to something specified. I wonder if there's etymology. Let's look in the OED. Oh, a greenhorn, a simpleton. Origin, North America. I just want to know the basic etymology. Oh, here we go. It just comes from to suck. So the actual, like, sucking action, and the rest is, like, metaphor and slang. Okay, anyways, so he's a sucker for her. We still don't know anything about her. Like, she's a ewe, she's a baby. Supposedly medicine, allegedly. I'm skeptical that she's medicine. So, he's a sucker, meaning he's super into her. And because he's a sucker, he'll go anywhere blindly, that is without thinking. That means she can deceive him. He's gullible when it comes to her. And he seems to be embracing gullibility on purpose rather than seeing it as like a negative bias to avoid. So it's like a pro-gullibility song. The basic theme of the song is romance is better than critical thinking. You should be gullible on purpose because women are worth it. And part of the implication is that women like gullibility. That somehow, by offering her, I'll go anywhere blindly, he's sucking up to her and she will like him better. And that's a way to win over a woman. Which is a terrible message, and it's totally false. Women, on the whole, prefer confidence, masculinity, men who have their shit together and make good decisions. They prefer stable men because the women are too emotional themselves and they don't do enough critical thinking. They're too gullible. And if the man can be like the rock that does the practical thinking and grounds them and keeps them down to earth and makes good choices and can lead in a rational way, that then they both benefit. Whereas, like, if the woman is just having her emotional whims and then the man is blindly following her emotional whims, they're both fucked. And women want men who are higher status than them. When you say, I'll go anywhere blindly for you, you're saying, I'm lower status than you, I'm chasing you. I see you as above me, as something to pursue. Women do ask men to do that, but it's not what they really want. What they want is a man who is above them, who they have to chase. When they find themselves chasing the man, thinking, oh, he's really good, I hope I can get him, that's when they're really attracted and really into a guy. They like high value men, whereas suckers who go places blindly are low value men. So the song is advocating blue pill, average frustrated chump, beta, non-pickup artist behavior. Okay, so I'm a sucker for you. Yeah, he's repeating himself, and then any road you take, you know that you'll find me. That means, again, he'll follow her anywhere. Wherever she goes, that's where he'll go. It's kind of stalkery. It's kind of repetitive. A lot of this is kind of repetitive. Okay, so he's a sucker for the subliminal things that no one knows about her. So that means he knows about her more than other people know about her. He knows about her in detail. He's so obsessed with her, he's paid close attention. So first of all, notice that it doesn't name a single one. Usually they name like really generic ones, like I love your smile and how you laugh. And they name like these really standard things that are typical, and then they pretend that that's what makes you special, is how you laugh and how you smile and stuff like that. But that's not special, that's, typical. But he doesn't even name generic things. He doesn't call her clever, smart, funny, good sense of humor. Men are funny. Women have a good sense of humor because they laugh at the man's jokes. They don't make the jokes themselves. Is the stereotype. That's not a random stereotype. Like there's some truth in that. So he's saying he paid such close attention to her. That's more him chasing her, him putting her on a pedestal and thinking she's higher value. Like he's putting more effort into the relationship than she is. And he's saying, I will put in unlimited effort into this relationship. And that is like the worst thing you can do with a woman. Well, okay, not the worst. You could like try to murder her. You could just leave and not take her calls ever. If you leave and don't take her calls, she might be like really into you for like a month. But if you do it for say 20 years, she'll definitely have forgotten about you. But yeah, that's a good example. Taking yourself away from a woman, being unavailable, is attractive. Like showing that you're less available to her shows you have other things going on in your life, which is something she finds appealing. She wants a guy who's not too easy. And this song is all about being easy and having nothing else going on in your life, so that she's the most important thing in your life, which is how to lose women. A lot of guys have trouble dating and they have a hard time with women. And songs like these are representative of a culture that is giving them misinformation about how to date women. Okay, so subliminal things. That means that, again, it's rejecting the mind. He's saying there's these things that I don't really understand consciously that make me like you. So it's not like he likes her for conscious reasons that he has not stated. He likes her for unconscious reasons. It's an emotional reaction. It's a whim. See, the attitude of a player who's good with women is all women are like that. All women are bitches and whores, the same standard memes. Like you have to expect this is what a woman in our culture is, and expect the woman that you're dealing with is not special. There are a million women. This particular one isn't that important. You could be successful with other women if you aren't with this one. There are plenty of fish in the sea. And there is a female nature, and you have to get used to it and accept it and be okay with it. Don't pretend she's special and she's going to be like so nice and so perfect. Except that she's going to have like standard female traits, some of which are bad. So it's denying all that stuff. Okay, so calling himself typical means he's like basic, common, unimportant, low value. He's again putting her above him because she's special and he's not special. And then he breaks his typical rules. That means she's special because if it was someone else who was not special, he would follow his typical rules. When he deals with a typical person, he follows his typical rules. But she's a special case. She's an exception. When he deals with her, he breaks his typical rules because she's so special that he'll just do anything for her. He'll follow her blindly. So, and then he repeats that he's a sucker. And by the way, the way this video ends is basically the women like them. They get with the women. They seem to be like going to the bedroom with some of the women. So they're successful with the women. And also, in real life, they're successful with women. They're like rich and famous. So of course they do well with women in person. And they have such a huge advantage by being rich, famous, good-looking musicians who have been seen on video by so many people, etc. Like that's such a big advantage that they can act badly, like they can be bad at dating and they'll still get women. Women will not fucking care if they're doing some unattractive behaviors or whatever. They can just get away with anything. They don't even know what it takes to be successful with women because they're not in a regular person situation. They have so much value that they can do all sorts of value lowering behaviors and communications and still succeed with women. I have no idea if they do that. They might be great with women. They might act nothing like the song in their personal lives, or they might act like the song and get away with it because of being rich and famous. But the point is, in person, they're successful with women, and the implication is this is what Jonas thinks. This is what these very successful people think. So it's hinting to listeners that this is how they deal with women, and they're successful people. So this is the best way to deal with women. If you want to get as many girls as Jonas gets, you should be a blind follower. So that's awful. And the video shows it. It shows them being around women and the women liking them, smiling, making sexy faces. There's a bondage shot, which is the man is in bondage, not the woman. So it's too much role reversal. Like, the man is not being manly, he's not being a leader, he's not being confident, he's being her bitch, and bitches don't like bitches. They're like well dressed and stuff. I don't know exactly how trendy it is and how much this is just weird, but there's certainly like there are makeup artists, there are costume selection people who know what they're doing. There are like staff involved in this video, and these are like expensive clothes. Like, they're not going to be like, well, we need to save $1,000, so let's save it on wardrobe. These clothes are capable of impressing at least certain people in certain subcultures, which again makes them look successful and high value, and then they're singing about how to be low value, and the implication is they're singing about how to be like them, how to be high value. But it's actually about how to be low value, so it's a trick. Yeah. Don't complicate it. Yeah. Okay, so don't complicate it means, again, don't think. Thinking's too complicated, just keep it simple and follow your emotional whims without even thinking them through. Just follow her blindly. You know, thinking is complicated. Using your eyes and your mind is complicated. Blindness is not complicated. Okay, well, this is fucking nonsense. So you know everything about me. Okay, first of all, that's totally false. The song actually tells nothing about him. Like, he's a sucker, but it doesn't say like what's his profession, what's his hobbies, what kind of ideas does he have, what are his politics. You really know very little about him except that he's bad at romance. And then he says he knows her, which is not the first time. Like, the sucker for the subliminal things, that means he notices little things about her. He knows things no one knows about her. That means he notices little things about her. He knows her in detail. So he claims to know her in detail, and that she knows him. But the song is not illustrating that. Like, I think he's lying. I know that this is meant for people who are in relationships where they actually do know about things about each other, to some extent. Like, it's also not meant for like one night stands, but it's this is like a one-itis song, like an I'm obsessed with this particular girl song, which is not a one night stand thing. It's you know, I've seen them over time for weeks and gotten really obsessed with them. So that's plenty of time to pretend you know everything about her. And like, by the way, it says it's not complicated. Where was I? Oh yeah, here. Don't complicate it. And then claiming to know everything about each other. They're sort of saying they're not complicated. There isn't much to them by putting those two things together. Anyways, and then he says he can't fucking remember. And there's a bunch of nights when they were together that he doesn't remember because they get drunk and they party and shit, and they don't even remember it. They're claiming to know all about each other, but they can't even remember all their time with each other, which is gross, and it's anti-intellectual. Again, they're forsaking the mind. Like, when you cannot remember things, they're leaving your mind. They're no longer in your mind. You do not have mental control over them. You don't have a mental grasp of them. They were just actions that didn't get recorded in your mind. So it's so fucking anti-intellectual. It's very evil again. It's like if you don't remember what you saw, it's a lot like never having seen it, being blind. You can't think about it. Okay, now we have the chorus again. So yeah, they party, they don't think. Be being in bubble baths with lollipops is not manly. So there's another like anti-masculine theme. And like the way they dress is not manly either. They're not trying to present as strong people. Pouring her fucking drink into the bathtub, that is showing like careless, sloppy party girl. Wasteful, privileged, stupid, incompetent. Like those are all the kind of things it's signaling. Extravagant, maybe. Rich enough to not care. She's relying on him to be a sucker to pay for her activities. Like, she wants a guy who is blind enough to just buy her drinks to pour out. Which is, it's bad. Oh, this is repeating. Oh, there's actually no more new lyrics in the rest. It's all repeating. Okay, so yeah, they're drinking, they're dancing, they're partying, they're heading off to the bedroom. The girls are totally into it. When you do this bullshit, girls will take advantage of you. They will treat you as a sucker. Milk you for some money and get you to buy them drinks. Maybe play with you and toy with you for a while and then leave. As a short-term thing, they'll take advantage of guys. And guys are like, oh my god, I'm getting attention from a girl. Yes, she's taking advantage of me, but at least it's attention. That is not a good attitude to have to life. You do not want to be dealing with romance and with women that way. There's the bondage shit. It shows up a second time, I think. They're showing like success with women, being the life of the dinner party, women screaming, women taking clothes off. But all the shit they're singing is not how you get women. And like, look at this shit. That is not attractive to women. That's not what a woman wants in a guy. But then look at the reaction shot. Like, I'm not sure if it's a reaction, but I think it might be. Is she's doing that tongue thing. She's wearing a ton of makeup, she's looking hot, and then she's doing the tongue thing, which means I'm gonna have sex with you. And so that is the reaction to him being so fucking blind that he gets tied up. And she just has total control over the interaction, and she's like, cool. I like that, I'm gonna fuck you. And how are they gonna have good sex when he's a blind sucker? Like, how's he gonna get on top and fuck her? How is he going to like do things to her? Like, the male role in sex is to control the interaction and to do things to her. Women do not want to be on top in sex in general, on the whole. Even the ones who think they do and sometimes do it mostly don't like it as much. I know that the culture has been pushing women in that direction like a lot for decades, but it's still standard sex roles are still powerful enough that there's far more women who would rather be choked by the man than tie the man up. Who'd rather be on bottom than on top most of the time. But yeah, women like being choked and have rape fantasies. They like the idea of the guy being in control and them being out of control. It's partly to excuse sex, like if they're not in control, they're not guilty, they're not causing sex, so they're not dirty. But the main thing is they like strong, confident men who take what they want. And the female role is to attract the man, to be attractive. Whereas if the man is following her blindly, she's not fucking attractive, actually. Because he's not actually looking at her, he's blind. So she's losing, actually, the opportunity to do the female stuff properly. Because he's so fucking sycophant. But look, the woman will, like, take her shirt off. She's about to show her breasts to that guy, because he's a sycophant. So they're telling you it works. So if you want to know better, on fallibleideas.com/books, if you go down to the bottom, got dating and social dynamics. I recommend the book How to Make Girls Chase. It is especially good. Oh hey, there's an extra space there. I'm going to delete that. Anyway, I also recommend a couple other things. There are people who had a discussion forum online, very similar to the Fallible Ideas list, with actual internet email quoting. And they went to bars, they went to clubs, they met women in all sorts of contexts, and they practiced, and they did testing, and they saw what worked and what didn't work. And they developed high quality theories and material about how to attract women, and they teach boot camps and courses and make instructional videos and shit. And it's actually good because these are people who were able to have critical discussions to develop the material, which is an effective method that works a lot better than Jonas songs. Alright, if you liked this, like, subscribe, follow, and go to latemple.com and sign up for my newsletter, and I will send out my new stuff so you can find it easily. Like, this video will be linked in the newsletter so you can find it, because I make things on a lot of different sites, like not just YouTube. I do podcasts, I do a blog, I put essays on essay collection websites, etc. So the newsletter is the best place to find everything in one place.